Hello, everybody, and welcome to this session on licensing and accreditation with Color Vowel. I'm Karen Taylor of English Language Training Solutions. We are the sole provider of the Color Vowel method, our training around the approach, and all materials related to the Color Vowel Chart. So we're glad to have you here today. If you're here, it's probably because you already have a coaching business or some kind of a tutoring business, or you're thinking about establishing a business. And maybe you already do some tutoring on the side and you're also working for an organization. All of those things are possible. But we often think, wouldn't it be nice if I could advertise in my business, or if I want to be affiliated with Color Vowel because it helps provide a sense of method and support and being part of a larger organization. And these are all things that I'm here to provide you with information about. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and share screen. All right. I'd like to know who you are. If you would open the chat, I'd appreciate that. Let's take a look in the chat and just let me know. Go ahead and type in there your name and where you are, and who you teach. Do you have a coaching business? That would be nice to know. Okay, so we're just looking there in the chat. We work with already a number of licensed partners. And if you look on our website at colorvowel.com, I'll go ahead and pull that up so you can see that too. What we've been able to do over the last several years is establish essentially a partnership and a support program. And that's what I aim to share with you today. Let me just get to our homepage as you're chatting there. Here's the chat. Let's see. So, I would say something like, hello, here from Maryland. Okay. Love to know where you are and who you teach. Okay. Great. All right. Greetings, Karen. And Karen, do you have a name for your company? You can put that in there. I'd love to know. Ron's here from Tennessee. Karen's there from San Francisco. Jen's here from Salt Lake. We've got Trang here from Vietnam. Welcome. Okay. And you work with freelance teachers. Yeah. That's a great name for your company, Karen. I love the book, Well Said. I don't know if it was an inspiration. You don't even know it. It's a standard book that I used for years by Linda Grant.
I know, and she hasn't sued me yet, so I'm very happy.
Oh,
So,
no, no. It's a different domain. It's a very different, I'm happy to talk about those things, by the way. A phrase is not necessarily
I know.
trademarked, so you're
Yeah,
okay.
I know. It was a
Yeah,
coincidence.
yeah, exactly. Wonderful. Let's see. All right. And that's right. Jen works with ITAs, and maybe you're thinking about ITAs are international teaching assistants, if anyone was wondering. Good. Adult ESL students. Great. And I'd love to get a sense of where you are in your journey as I continue. Do you already have a business like Karen does, or if you're thinking about it? Okay, and I know that's, if you're thinking about it, it's kind of a scary proposition a little bit sometimes, but I'd love to know where you are in that. Okay, well, let's move along. My question would be, what makes your teaching distinctive? Your instruction, when you think of your clients or those who study with you, what do you know that you deliver to them that makes you distinctive? Can you put a few ideas in the chat? What makes your teaching distinctive? Thinking and planning. Yeah, good, Ron. I was going to say my superpower is creating lessons on the fly. That happens to be something I'm really good at. And I figured it out recently with some folks that I teach where I never know who's going to be in the room. And so I've learned how to do a lot of that. So there's sort of that flexibility. There's the planning. Good. Ron mentioned self-paced, individualized instruction with one-on-one tutoring. Good. Clarity. Good. So they all come, so your students come and they recognize these. My next question would be, how would you describe your teaching method? And I just put that out there and you can start writing as I continue to present. Because if you think of like job applications, people say, how do you teach? What's your method? And oftentimes we'll say things like, well, I take an eclectic approach. Have you ever heard yourself say that? Take an eclectic approach. Um, and, that means we're grabbing the best of everything we've ever learned about. So we might, about our own teaching, say, I'm passionate, I make a personal connection, I have years of experience, I have all this expertise, I have a particular focus that makes me distinctive. When it comes to method, I would like teachers to be able to say something very specific. And so being able to say, I use a proven brain-based method, and I know that it works. It boosts comprehensibility in my learners. It raises speaking confidence. It makes me a better language teacher because of it, and the community that supports teachers like me. These are some of the things we do in Color Vowel. And some of you who are already part of that community know that. So Color Vowel starts to represent a comprehensive method for teaching spoken English. We have a lot of years under our belt with 25 years of field testing. We've reached tens of thousands of teachers, millions of learners, and we have a number of strategic partners that we've worked with. Some of my most exciting recent work is with Intercambio, who you see right here. We have a new book out that's some pretty exciting stuff, and I do a lot of ongoing work with Blue Canoe, some foundational work with the State Department, and some curricular work with Peace Corps and the Washington Literacy Center. But we also then have our licensed and accredited schools and businesses, and these include our coaches. Okay, I'll be sharing a couple stories about these folks later in this presentation. Great. Several of you are already familiar with Color Vowel, but those watching may not be. So I'd like to take just a moment to do a quick view of what Color Vowel is as a method, or how we approach spoken English. If you take a look at this word at the bottom of your screen, look at it with new eyes, and you can appreciate somebody looking at it and saying, well, canal, 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 who knows? Meaning the written word does not provide us with the marks that let us know how the word really sounds, other than the individual phonemes that they might be. And it's the vowel letters in particular that leave us wondering, because we only have 6 written letters that represent 16 different sounds, both singly and in combination. Right? So there's a bit of a mystery and a gap between written and spoken English. Stress happens in English in the vowel sounds. And then it comes down to this question of which ones, the ones in your native language inventory or the ones of English. And it's difficult to perceive the difference between those two sets if you don't have a language for it. So these 5 graphemes, or these 5 symbols I should put up here, are the vowel sounds of many languages, not all, but let's just say, for example, Spanish or Japanese. A, e, I, o, u. Right. So these are sounds that a speaker of Spanish has as their go-to inventory. And as a native Spanish speaker who doesn't yet speak another language fluently, these are the only go-tos. These are the only items on the shelf to choose from. Okay, and so when they encounter another language system, they're going to select these sounds as the vowel sounds in that next language. This being the color vowel chart, we can see now the vowel sounds of English, which each one of which has a box or a shape attached to it, where green, T, and silver pin are the 2 breakouts from this E sound of Spanish. Or for the E of Spanish, if you're an English speaker, you may be hearing gray, but if you listen very carefully, it's actually different. Whereas this is and So you can see this sort of straddling effect where a given sound of Spanish maps onto 2 sounds of English, and those 2 sounds sound the same to that speaker of Spanish. So it goes both ways. They have an accented delivery of this one vowel that can be ambiguous, like paper and pepper, And they don't necessarily, they probably don't perceive the difference between those two. So they won't hear the difference between paper and pepper, and we'll have to rely a lot more on other cues to figure out which one is being said. Ah maps onto a number of vowels where they all will sound very similar, if not the same. O and U. Okay. I love using the black and white chart for a moment just because it can emphasize and remind us that the color vowel chart is not really color based. It's not about the colors you see. It's about the sounds you hear in the anchor phrases. So colorblind students are not excluded by the chart. It is an added feature for those of us that are sensitive to visual color. It can be a sensory reward and reinforcement, but not a required piece. Okay. Now, when we start to break in, we see how these individual sounds can, in a sense, break out, right? So we have comes gray and red. Becomes ah. So we have sort of these three breakouts from one sound, possibly four, depending on your language. Like Portuguese from Brazil, there's a lot around this sound that can sound red, black, olive, or mustard. Um, head, had, hot, and hut all sound very similar to a speaker of Portuguese in Brazil. Okay. And so moving along, we can see how these are the symbols of the chart that correspond. And we use these in our games, in our activities, and tutors and coaches can use them in their materials when they're trained and have access to these digital images. Okay. The color one is, of course, very beautiful. We love the colors. They're pretty handy as well. Okay. And so they map on the same way. I'd like to move forward, though, and just provide an example of how efficient the color vowel method is, and what it provides you on the inside of your coaching business. So this is what you're going to be able to advertise as I do this, and then students come in and they experience this kind of incredible efficiency. Okay, this student is studying. This is a middle schooler who's working with study materials, tutoring with Liz Bigler, who is a licensed, actually a trained coach. And so she's working with him and she's going to provide this very efficient kind of guidance. And I am going to stop share for a moment while I adjust my audio settings. I thank you for bearing with me. There we go. All right. And so we get to hear a bit from Liz and her student. There we go.
And she could hear the impatience in her voice downstairs.
Okay. What if I tell you that this word is gray day?
Gray day?
Mm-hmm.
Impatience.
Yeah.
She couldn't believe this many people were here to see her. She was a novice.
Which one?
Novice.
Okay, I'm going to tell you that it's an olive sock word. Olive sock.
Olive sock. Novice.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Most new performers never had this large of a crowd.
What's this word?
Crowd.
That word is brown cow.
Crowd.
Yep.
This really gives us an appreciation of something I mentioned earlier, which is, that the written word isn't marked up for how it sounds. Well, here it is. So we couldn't see canal on Canal Street lit up the way it needs to sound, but here we can. Novice, impatience, crowd. We have both an underline that shows where the stress is, and then we can refer to color vowels for the particular sound that those vowel letters make. So that student chose crowed, which would be rose, and the teacher said, no, that's brown, and he quickly made that own self-correction, which is pretty phenomenal and efficient. Okay. And so that we're able to now stress the expected syllable for the expected amount of time with the strategies we teach students. for being better understood. Whether those are short or long words or beginning words or highly advanced words, the principle is the same. Okay, that learner has other strategies that allow him to go back and review and reinforce. Many different versions of the color vowel organizer, but this one is our sort of go-to. And so after that session, toward the end of it, typically learner and teacher go back and reinforce gray day impatience, olive sock novice, using the open hand and the arm extension that helps us spend that time on vowel. And then crowd, brown cow, crowd, but also words that seem to be very similar, but actually sound quite different, like olive sock photographer. Let's see, we have photograph, roseboat photograph, and black cat photographic. And so this kind of an organizer provides the learner with a way forward. And that's part of being methodical. And it can carry over from session to session, of course. Okay. The kind of transformation that can take place is remarkable. I wanted to share with you these two videos. They're a before and after video of a gentleman named Hiro. And it's from one of our licensed partners, which is Gabby Academy. And the instructors you see down below here is Alicia Wagstaff. This represents a total of 4 hours of work on pronunciation. Those 4 hours took place, I think, over a couple of days, but it was all in a very short period of time. I'd like you to appreciate, get a chance to appreciate what happened here. So this is the before. Hiro, it's an elevator pitch course, intensive course for business English. And so he's a business guy. He's going to tell you a little bit about his business. And while you listen, you can just decide with a 1, 2, 3. 3 is the highest. Very, very comprehensible. I'm ready to invest in his company. Down to a 1, which would be I'm going to have to know a lot more before I can invest in this company. Here we go.
Yep.
Hero? Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, let's go.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Hi. I'm Hiro Hamada. I'm both a mobility designer and a racing rider of motorcycle. In the past, I participated in the Tutti Italian GP held in San Marino, Italy. I'm building the next generation electric motorcycle like Tesla. In 4W vehicle, slipping accidents are prevented by having the other tires compensate for the slipped tire.
I can stop there. If you would just hold up, if I can see you on the screen, is that a 3, very comprehensible, 2, 1? Okay, we have a couple of 1s in the room. Okay, what kind of words did you remember? Put those in the chat. What did he say? Did you catch any of the words? 1 usually means like maybe I caught a couple words. So what did you catch? Maybe you caught motorcycle. Okay. Or maybe Italy. Anybody catch Italy? Yeah. Okay. So if you gave a 1, you have a sense like, well, I know there might have been a motorcycle involved in Italy, and I'm not quite sure what else. He seems sincere, but boy, I really don't know what he's talking about. Okay. Let's do a bit of the after here and decide what you think now.
Hi. Okay. Hi. Hi. Hello. I'm Hiro Hamada. I'm the president and product designer of the ambitious company Ride Design. My company is currently working on creating a revolutionary motorcycle. My passion for motorcycle comes from my background as a professional motorcycle racer. I've been involved in racing for over 30 years and have competed in international races across Italy. During one of my races, I had an unfortunate tire slip and had to end the race early. This incident inspired me to create a motorcycle with features similar to 4WD vehicle, so that people can ride on snowy roads and through deserts without experiencing any unfortunate accidents.
Okay. You get a sense of what his passion is? What's our score now? 3, 2, 1. Okay. I see a 2. I see a 2-ish, a strong 2. Great. With a little bit 2.5. Okay, great. What made the difference? If you could open up mics, what made the difference there? Why is he better? Why did the score go up, Jen?
He's stressing those syllables. I mean, you can still hear some of the typical issues, but he's got, like you said, time on vowel. It's much more clear what he's trying to say because he's stressing the right things in the right places.
Yeah. Yeah. We were able to match up our expectations of a word with his delivery of that word and in reverse, right? He says something, we're able to catch it, align it, comprehend it, and keep going with his message rather than getting stuck in what did he just say? What did he just say? And so we're listening forward. Eric, Ron?
And I also think that it's what he didn't stress.
Yeah.
Right. So it wasn't just a mumble jumble all the way along.
Yeah. There was a sense of depth and say peak, right? So he brought down the things that didn't need to be stressed. He brought up the things that needed to be stressed. And that created, again, that kind of profile, the sound file profiles that we can call understanding. You know, it's about us all aligning our listening with what's being said. Great. Yeah. So yes, Karen?
I was just going to say, I also think he's chunking his language better. He's using thought groups better. And in those pauses between the groups, it allows my brain to catch up to anything that I had trouble with before he gives me the next chunk of language. And that's very helpful.
Yeah. Now just keep in mind that was 4 hours of work. And it's kind of phenomenal, actually. He's a low, say a beginning to high beginning learner. But this is the kind of work that he did with Alicia, where she helped him break his talk up into thought groups. And so there was that one pretty remarkable moment. My passion for motorcycles comes from my background as a professional motorcycle racer, right? So it's not exactly what she did because there were more markups, but he engaged in this method, this procedure of layering in, where are the stressed words? Where are the unstressed words? Where's the stress? What color are they? And this is what he practiced with. And in this way, the color vowels I think of them as these kind of visual stepping stones. The same way these folks are making it across the river, we listeners are making it through his communication step by step. We're staying with him and not getting, if you take the metaphor further, we're not getting swept away by the stream of speech, wondering where it is we've been swept to. Okay. So that's a bit of the method of the promise inside. And I wanted to highlight this because anytime you license, it's because you want to be able to provide a promise, in a sense. That's, if you say, back in the day when we had computers that said Intel inside, I don't know if you remember that era, but it was a promise that Intel is in there and it's going to make it better. So then that computer better follow through when you invest in that. And so I'll share a little bit about Alicia. Here, I'll just clean that up a little bit for you. So here's Alicia. She's the one that worked with Hero. She works with Gabby Academy. A little bit about her journey. She's now a level 3 teacher trainer who teaches and trains for us and for Gabby Academy. So the Academy itself is a licensed and accredited partner, and they employ a lot of different teachers. So that's one model that we have for licensing and accreditation, is at the school or organization level. But I share Alicia's journey just because she too is a teacher. She's an educator in her own right. And so her journey has been similar to your own. Is there's a beginning with Color Vowel Basics and the Technique Practicum. I know, Trang, you're at that point right now. You're starting in with that level 1 training. And then she continued, she went through what we call the core the 4 core courses of level 2. She completed 3 more elective courses, and as well as her teaching and coaching practicum, and now has recently spent the past year and a half finishing up with sort of another added focus, which is training teachers, and that is its own, additional piece. You can think of level 1 and 2 as the journey for teaching learners, and then level 3 is, say, a different lens where you're now going and training teachers to teach learners. A lot of fun. But the accreditation and licensing program is really focused on these 2 levels, if you will. Okay. I want to share some information with you about how licensing works. There's the initial licensing program, and that is an 18-month support program for you to get your feet wet, make sure it works for you, as we work together on a number of sort of touchstones in these tasks that need to be done. Things like really using the brand, using Color Vowel on your website or with your learners and in marketing, more importantly. So it's all about the outside of your business, making a promise that draws people so that you can deliver on that promise. Yeah. Level 1, getting trained is a prerequisite to joining the program. So again, I'll use Trang as an example. She's now in there doing it. By June 5th, anybody who's interested in the program needs to have completed basics and be either at least enrolled in one of our level 1 courses, because I know that it all depends on time zone and so forth. So we have courses in May, June, July, August, September. The sooner, the better, of course, because it's always in your interest to have the licensing go hand in hand with knowing what you're doing. But that said, the basics is that foundational piece that must be in place. Okay. Our launch program starts in June, of course, and that is an 18-month experience. And then after that, we do renewals that are 3 years at a time, so that it's not, always coming upon, oh, it's time to renew. But this first section, rather than going year by year, is an 18-month experience. Okay. And so it ends up being about $70, or is $70 a month. It is payable up in advance. And by participating in this 12-step program, which is run a lot like a course, you essentially transform or enhance, say, the outward facing part of your business so that learners know what they're heading into, why they want to do that. That might include videos, that might include, any manner of outreach. And that's using the Color Vowel brand, really leveraging that, okay? As well as getting lots of support from us and meeting colleagues. With that accreditation in place that shows a combination of licensing behaviors and training in place, then we renew that, and we're able to go into a year-by-year licensing renewal that we bundle into 3-year agreements, if you will. Okay. The Basics program, if you're not already aware of it, Basics is a self-paced set of video modules, and that's why it's not too big a lift to say that has to be done before June, because it is self-paced and it's asynchronous. So you can do it on your own time, your own time zone. But that does go hand in hand with the practicum. And so the practicum consists of 5 live sessions. One of those is an orientation plus 4 more actual instructional sessions. It's a good amount of work. It's pretty intensive, 7.5 hours of actual class time, plus some tasks, a number of tasks, actually. There are 12 of them in that 4-week course with lots of personalized feedback. But that does give you access to the digital image kit. And you saw some of those images in the work that I showed you that Alicia had done. Okay. Some of the upcoming trainings are listed here. You can take a screenshot if that's of interest to you, or just go to learn.colorvowel.com and you'll find those under level 1. Okay. So we have quite a bit coming up. All right. I'd like to share one more example. This is Keenan. Keenan Rhodes is, unlike Gabby Academy, she's a sole proprietor business. So it's based around her and what she does. She's actually an SLP by training, a speech language pathologist, but she pretty early in her career turned her attention to English accent coaching. She has a big presence on YouTube, and I think is a really great model for how you can use public-facing videos to draw clients to your business. She's now doing really well. We've been partnering for now, gosh, since 2020. Sorry, that is not accurate. It's not 2002. 2022 is what that should say. And I will go ahead and fix it as we speak because I don't like that. There we go. And so since 2022, we've been partners, and business is booming. And she's now about to launch her own learning platform, like native, built into her own company kind of platform with instructional modules and all kinds of levels of coaching. Many of us are using outside platforms, whether it's Kajabi or what is it? Learn, what's it called? Teachable, or maybe Thinkific, like I am. So there are lots of ways to deliver, even possibly just via Zoom and WhatsApp. We all have our different ways of delivering instruction online. So it's just to say she's been doing all of that and more now. As an example, just to kind of give you an idea, again, why licensing? Licensing gives you the right to do things in public-facing publicity. And so this is a little glimpse of what Keenan recently did. I'll give you an idea.
Well, hey there and welcome. This is the Clear English Corner, and I'm Keenan, your Clear English coach. In this lesson, we're practicing with common brand names. These are brand names that we hear in daily exchanges and advertising, and they provide a great opportunity for practice with different vowel sounds of North American English, as well as some challenging consonants. As we practice, we'll be using our lovely Color Vowel Chart. This tool was created by my friend and colleague, Karen Taylor, and it helps improve the clarity and naturalness of your spoken English by focusing on the vowel sounds and the key role they play in English rhythm. The Color Vowel Chart is an integral part of my training inside Clear English Academy, and I'm a huge fan. All right, so first let's talk about a couple of common clothing brand names, like this one, Nike. Looking at the spelling, you might want to say Nike, but this word is actually 2 syllables, Nike. Well, hey there and welcome.
Okay. So you get the idea. Yeah. So she's following a number of protocols in this video that are established in the licensing agreement. And it's not, think of it not as like a demand, a hammer, but rather as a tool so that she's showing that she's aligned. I'm going to see if I can skip over here.
Well, hey there and welcome.
The YouTube itself. Hold on here.
And welcome.
If you look,
this is the clear.
Stop. If you look in the video itself, you'll see down in the description too, that we're building together this sense that you have permission to do this, and anyone who's posting something like this without permission will have a takedown, or at least I'll go to them and say, hey, you need to be licensed, you need to be trained with us. And so it creates a kind of a shared lifting up, like we're all going to support the brand so that the brand is a promise of quality. That person is trained, they're participating in best practices of Color Vowel, and therefore the brand means something. And the learner that works with Keenan might find that they find another coach and they say, oh, that's a Color Vowel coach too. And we, rather than trying to be these islands of like the one coach that's really good out there, we get to be this network of Color Vowel coaches that all know and support each other. Because as Keenan said to me in an early conversation, you know, there are lots of people who are looking for help and support in terms of our clients and students, and no one of us can handle the world's clients. We need a lot of us. So we turn into a bit of a tribe together and are supporting one another. So here you see that she's got her licensing agreement number. These are all things that are stipulated in the actual formal agreement. Okay. And she has a bit about, you know, about what she's done with us, and she has a link. And that goes hand in hand with attribution in her words and in what we see appear in the video. It's not every video that she does, you know, that full, she did a little bit of love for me and like, we, you know, I'm a fan and all that. It's not every video that she does that in. But every few videos, she reiterates her relationship so that everyone understands that we're doing something neat together. That's sort of a big celebration is what it is. Okay. And that again makes it distinctive from, I find several videos out there where folks will simply start teaching with it. And the problem of someone simply teaching with it is that if they're not trained, they definitely don't know how much more the chart does than simply present vowels. It's very unlikely. And if someone has maybe gone through a lot of material and talked to a lot of people and are using it pretty well, why not join us, so that I can amplify the business with them and they can become part of our group. So that's how I think about licensing and accreditation. It's really becoming part of a consortium of folks who teach in like-minded ways for different reasons. Okay. Beyond, let me just see here. And it really does provide, this is kind of an older slide that I have of Keenan's. But before she licensed with us, as an example here, she had a lot of phonetic symbols. And then after she started using Color Vowel, it really cleaned up her entire presentation. So suddenly she's able to reach her viewing audience. And the comments are very positive, I find, when I look down in the comments. So it's been great for her company. Okay. Again, our launch date is June 6th for our licensing cohort. Some of the benefits, and of course, there's more in the agreement itself, and that's where we're headed with this slide. You can scan that QR code if you are interested. It's simply a very short form that you can fill out to say that you're interested. I'm also putting this link in the chat for those of you who are here in this session with me, so that you can simply open up that form and let me know what you would like to do next. Okay, so that's an interest form that I have here. And again, just a couple of the benefits, but we've got the monthly coaching calls that come each month. There's a quarterly forum that's been just wonderful. We've been running that for the last several years, and it is quarterly, where different partners get to highlight their successes, their strategies, and also ask just a lot of questions. I find we always talk about marketing, how to just make genuine marketing that feels right and that works. And so those are some of the kinds of things we talk about in there. Okay. Beyond that, I want to see what else I wanted to share with you, and then I'll be taking questions. Just a glimpse of renewal after that 18-month period. We provide renewal options. And this is just a quick screen capture from the document itself, but you get a sense that this is shaped by level of training. So if you are already by that point in 18 months, if you've really pursued your own training in the journey, your rate for renewal is lower than if you remain a level 1 trained teacher. Okay, but that said, it remains pretty affordable. It's a $70, which is the same as the 18-month initial licensing period. So in a sense, it's simply renewing with no change if you haven't had a chance to continue your journey in terms of training. It goes down if you've pursued some training, and down significantly by half when you are level 2 certified through that practicum, teaching practicum and the coaching practicum. Karen, for example, who's in the room here, she's finishing up her level 2 cert right now. Yeah, yes. Okay. So she will, if you were going to do this, it would be the initial licensing period, which is all part of our onboarding, and then the renewal would be down low. But the other big benefit is being level 2 trained, is you'd be eligible for some discounts on any other courses you want to take and workshops. Okay. All right. So licensing, just as a bit of a summary, it gives you the right to feature Color Vowel Chart in your videos, to attract students with the Color Vowel brand explicitly, to display your Color Vowel license badge on your website. Actually, that would be a requirement and a right. You get to enjoy that increased traffic based on website referrals from Color Vowel, and recognize Color Vowel as a provider on, we'd recognize you as a provider on our website, and receive coaching and support. Beyond that, let me see. Accreditation. Accreditation is basically toward the end of the 18 months is making sure that your instruction is meeting a a minimum kind of a baseline that it is a color vowel approach. But that goes hand in hand with the training you get, which is separate, by the way. So you're pursuing your training, and accreditation goes hand in hand with that licensing. Okay. Part of accreditation when you receive that after 18 months is that 10% off of all level 2 professional development. If you're already through level 2 or part of it, you'll actually get a higher percent off. It's a permanent coupon for all events. Okay. And with that renewal of every 3 years. I'm happy to take questions at this time. And we'll go back to this page for a moment while you're thinking. Okay. Questions or comments about licensing?
I have 3 questions.
Okay.
First of all, thank you for the information. That was really super helpful. So number 1, licensing is for, as I understand it, your use of public facing. But if you're doing a private group class, right, that's not getting recorded or distributed, doesn't require licensing.
Exactly.
Okay.
No, so Karen, in fact, you reminded me, there's one more thing I wanted to share with you all. And I'm going to share it through Canva because it's a vertical object. But if you take a look at it, this has been a question I get all the time. So let's walk through it. So let's start on the right. We're going to make a circle. Educational use. Licensing is not needed when you say, oh, I use the color vowel chart in my instruction. I use the images for my materials. I use color vowel in videos that I record for my students. Okay, private, right? I developed an entire course around color vowel. All of those things are educational use. They're within your institution. They're not things that the public can find when surfing the web, let's say, okay? It's the equivalent of a brick and mortar classroom where once you walk through the doors, you see color vowel everywhere. That is already an option for you because color vowel has, in terms of the images, has a Creative Commons copyright that is, we've created it very liberally so you can use it. We want it to be used, right? And so this is simply, for many of us, we're right here. That's us. That might be Karen. If she chooses to go with licensing, it's because she wants to start making her work known out there. Maybe she's creating materials for Teachers Pay Teachers and wants to sell those materials. That's commercial. Maybe she's, or maybe it's even free in Teachers Pay Teachers, but she's creating a brand, see? So the moment you're creating a brand that has value, that is commercial. If you have videos on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube that are public facing, that starts to get on this line, the graphic line. I try not to mouse over stuff. I'm getting a little chaotic, but that line that runs through them gets you over to the left side. That is commercial use. And commercial use requires licensing. It's an agreement between us so that we're lifting each other up and creating a brand that is not diluted, right? And that goes hand, part of what you pay for in licensing is the action that we take to monitor the use of Color Vowel as a brand. We actually go out and maintain it. You know, I have to do, we have a little tiny team that'll go out and check YouTube, and then it goes and checks places like Amazon. We have to go do takedowns, and we monitor and restrict, you know, no, it's not okay to do what you're doing. We don't even know who you are. So that's part of maintaining the brand is monitoring and protecting it. Okay. So commercial use creates that inside team. Do you refer to social media? Are you a materials writer or publisher? Are you a TEFLpreneur, which is just a kind of a popular way of saying, are you your own business? Okay. And when any of those is a yes or a maybe yes, then we need to talk. And it's not scary. It's just an agreement. And it's a way to work together and collaborate. Okay. So Karen, does that help really clarify for you?
Yes, until you got to the very last point. So if you work for yourself and I don't work for an institution, where am I?
You're still over here, except
okay.
You might want to chat with me if you want to start advertising.
Okay, I got it.
Right.
I got
so,
it
you know, right now, let's just say maybe you have a business with incredible word of mouth. your clients love you and they refer you naturally.
Right.
And they might to each other say, Karen Schiff's incredible. I was so successful with her. And she uses this chart, but they're mentioning it. I mean, that's up to them. It may not be why they love you so much. They might love you because of you, right? So that's different from you reaching out and saying, I'm Karen Schiff and I use the Color Vowel.
I understand. I couldn't do a Google ad campaign saying I use Color Vowel. Come check it out. Yeah, I get it.
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
So then you mentioned a cohort starting June 6th.
Yeah.
How many cohorts do you start a year? Like if I miss the June 6th boat, when's my next opportunity?
Good. The June 6th boat is simply an opportunity to start together. The door will actually remain open.
Okay.
So there's some flexibility there. I would like to start with a cohort because it's a little more efficient and it's a little more community minded. So it's just, it's nice to start together. And if you start in October, that's okay. Because logistically, what will happen is if you license, you join a community. We have a literal community that's private for the licensed partners. And in there, we have access to a free course that is that support course to get those deliverables in. So in those 18 months, it's like you're going to be delivering certain things, proof that you've put your licensed badge up on your website, and not proof, but evidence, evidence that you know how to use the right attribution in a video. And so we'll actually have you walk through making a video, and you get to decide whether you post it or not. But what I've found is that when teachers partner with us, they often still feel like they don't want to break any rules because we're teachers. We tend to be very respectful. I think it's safe to say we're respectful of rules. And so even after somebody purchases licensing with us, we find that they hold themselves back on leveraging the license. So the 18 months is structured to say, I'm going to push you a little bit. Go ahead and put the brand out there. Go ahead and make a video. Go ahead and see what it's like to put out an ad, and do the part that licensing gives you the right to do with a little push from us. And then you can decide at the end of the 18 months whether that's something that's really working for you and make a decision about renewal.
So if you miss the June 6th cohort, but you want to be part of a cohort, how often, and maybe you don't know the answer yet, but how often
I'm aiming for every June as a time that makes sense for me. If you start in October, your 18 months will start when you start.
Right.
And you will join the existing cohort and the next one.
Okay.
And the next one will include, it's an ever-growing group, but when you finish your 18 months and you are accredited, you don't have to attend these quarterly meetings and the check-ins the way we do with the 18-month folks, because we're in very close contact with the 18-month initial license people.
Yeah. Got it. All right. I don't want to monopolize, so I want to let other people ask questions, and if not, I'll ask my other two questions.
Okay, great. Hi, Ron.
I wrote you an email, or you all an email, and I got this in response. And this is exactly what I wanted to know. So thank you very much. I'm excited. So I'll talk later about how to sign up.
Great, great. And so, I'm really excited. Be sure to fill out the form that I've provided there as a link in the chat.
The challenge I have is I work for the state, but I'm planning to open my business, and I will definitely integrate the Color Vowel into it. So I want to get the licensing now.
Great. That's a great way to go. Yeah, it's great for planning the business. It's also great for once you already have that business.
Yeah, I've got to finish the level 1. I never finished it. So
all right, well, we'll be waiting for you. We have actually a session starting up next week. We've got orientation for a nice level 2. So I can send you a couple options, okay, Eric? I'm sorry, I keep seeing Eric as your last name, Ron. There we go.
One does.
Yeah. Other questions? Jen, did you have a question?
Yeah, mine is really, really logistical. What are the dates and what are the times that you meet?
Yeah, so I like to meet on Fridays for this in general. The fact that you're here tells me that it might work for you too. Once I know who is joining that, this coming year for June, I'll be deciding with them, and we'll kind of aim for what works for the most of us. But typically, it's definitely on Fridays is what I'm hoping for. And Fridays, anytime between 12 noon Eastern and like about 3 or 4 p.m. We'll work in there, but we'll find our common time. Okay. Yeah. Karen, you want to ask your third?
Yeah, sure. So the payment, you broke it down by month, but as I understood it, it's a one-time payment, but you were just showing us that it was the equivalent, or you're allowed to pay in installments?
We have installments, but they're not monthly installments.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit because it's a big partnership, right? So we can break it into payments. We typically, the 18 months, we have an upfront payment. If that's a really big lift for you, you can talk to me.
Okay.
But you can imagine from my side, if I'm going to invest a whole plan, I need to have the funding to put that together. So
yeah, no, I get it. That's how I chart. I push people toward one payment. And finally, the app, Blue Canoe app, is that, I know that that's a separate, animal from your work, but is there any integration or collaboration between the two? Yeah.
There might be. I'll speak to that. Let me take Nora's question. That's a really nice one, because she asked about the renewal kind of aspect.
Yeah.
Nora asked, why would I want to, what's the purpose of renewing every 3 years? It's just to say you need to have a current license if you're going to keep putting ELTS or color vowel on your shingle, so to say. That means the shingle, is sort of the sign on the outside, the part on your website or in your videos. So as long as you're actively recruiting new clients, new students with Color Vowel as a part of that messaging, that is the need for licensing. And so a 3-year renewal basically allows all of us to kind of breathe. You'd be amazed how quickly 3 years goes by. I am. And so not having to pull up another contract and another set of signatures and another set of, it just kind of quiets things down after that initial 18-month period to know that you have 3 years to just play with the branding and do your business without that noise. Any other questions there about that? Yeah, a year goes by way too quickly. So, and 18 months will go by really quickly. Hi, Jennifer.
Oh, I just wanted to signal and didn't want to cut you off. So the June 6th then would be the very first cohort meeting when you meet and talk about how the community works, how
Exactly.
the asynchronous courses work, and all of that.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So we'd actually enter the community, decide on, realize what some of the behaviors, what we can do in that community, how often we're meeting, all of that. Okay. Yeah. Good. Thanks, Nora. I'm glad that answered your question. Trang, do you have any questions? You're taking it all in.
No, I'm good. I'm just listening.
Great.
Actually, you guys asked all the questions I want to ask, so that's good.
I love it when people ask all the good questions, for sure. Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here and for taking it all in. I hope it's really simplified the question. I think some folks watching this might be a lot like the question Karen asked earlier, which is, well, should I already be licensed? I teach with this and I do this, and am I okay? And yes, you are okay. I want folks to walk away from this knowing like, oh, I don't need licensing because I don't do any advertising or public work. And then the others can say, oh, I could really benefit from licensing. So it's just about the right tool. I'll leave you with one additional resource that I think is still pretty good and worth reviewing, and that is our copyright kind of terms of use page. I'll put this over in the chat right now. Anytime you're wondering, like, is this okay? I just got an email from a teacher in Serbia who said, I love the chart. I want to teach with the chart. Am I allowed to tell my students about the chart? Am I allowed to show them the chart? I was like, yes, you're allowed to. Please show them this thing. Please teach with it. So again, luckily my world is filled with people who are earnest and honest and conscientious. And so knowing that, I've created the copyright page. I call it the copyright page, but it's trademark, patent, and copyright. So you understand what you need to know. And I say I use the word scary, but I do find it raises people's, fear factor when they think about these terms. But if you walk through, you'll learn quickly what we have in copyright, what we have in patent, what we have in trademark. And really, it's trademark and copyright in particular that licensing will cover when you edge into a commercial use. Okay, so you can read through. Creative Commons is our friend. Creative Commons was developed by I would say it was a team of folks. There's a whole website dedicated to it. This is an international organization that makes it easy to reference each other's work for non-commercial reasons. Okay, so you can read through that a bit. I've written this myself, and I keep revising it for clarity. If you find it's in any way unclear, let me know. Then there's the bit of attribution, like whether if you're presenting at a conference, attribution is always good. Everyone, deserves to have their name attached to anything that's their work, and the same goes for our work. And so that's why you'll see that Keenan said it, she showed it, and she wrote it. Right there in her video, she said it and showed it, and down in the comments, she wrote it. And so here's what attribution can look like. A little bit more about training, and ta-da! We're resolved on what copyright is. Okay. All righty. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining me. Any final questions before we wrap up?
Yes, I have one.
Sure. Hi, Nora.
Hello. Yes, so let's say I get trained as a teacher and I put that on my profile on social media.
Mhm.
I had to have the license, like all the
Yeah.
time for me to be able to have that information, or once my license is over, I need to remove that information from there, or how
No,
does that
you know
work?
what? You have just asked such a good question. I'm so glad you did. You do not need licensing to show your training badge. When you're level 1 trained, you receive a badge. It says level 1 trained. You can put that on LinkedIn. That is not a licensing. That is not a licensing matter. Okay, and I'll tell you why. Saying that, for example, I don't know. Let me see. I suppose if I went to Zumba, I always think about sort of really different business models. If you go to Zumba and get Zumba trained to do Zumba classes, they've actually wrapped level 1 or their basic certification. They have bundled it with licensing. So it's understandable that you would ask the question, right? So you say, I'm a Zumba certified instructor, therefore come to me and I'll be a Zumba certified instructor. But with Color Vowel, no, your licensing is when you are going to have a business with a website where you actually say, come to me, with the brand and with the promise. If you have down on your website that you are level 1 trained, that is different from making videos saying for commercial purposes.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
So
Thank
think
you.
of the badge as like it's just the badge, it's somewhere being shown, but that's really different from promoting and making that promise.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's a great question. Great way to end up, actually. Okay. So again, if you're level 1 trained, level 2 trained, those badges are there for you to include in any kind of like a resume, bio, anything online that you want to use it for, so long as it's simply an addendum to who you are. That's different from marketing and commercial use. Thank you. Hey, thank you again, everybody, for coming. When you come live and do these things and ask these questions, you help those who are watching the recorded session. If you're watching the recorded session, I want you to just send out a little thanks to everybody who was here. And do get in touch. We're at colorvowel.com. You can always reach me through the website. Okay. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day. And I'll stop the recording. I'll remain for anyone who has remaining just last minute questions.